we've got a lot of work to do, and I'm doing my best to fill in and do the good I can.
Governor Doug Ducey will have the responsibility of appointing a new senator at the beginning of next year. That means there will be 2 freshman senators serving in Arizona for the first time since the state was admitted to the union in 1912. That's 106 years ago. So far, there have not been any announcements regarding who Ducey may appoint.
The other statewide Arizona race yet to be called is Superintendent of Public Instruction. Governor Doug Ducey is the projected winner for re-election by a margin of 20 points, and Republicans dominated the rest of the state's leadership positions. Meanwhile, Arizona's delegation in the U.S. House of Representatives is turning a little more blue. 5 Democrats and 4 Republicans are the projected winners in Arizona's congressional races. In Congressional District 1, Democrat Tom O'Halloran keeps his seat against Republican Wendy Rogers. In CD2, Ann Kirkpatrick's projected win flips the district blue for the first time in years after Martha McSally vacated her seat to run for Senate. All incumbents in Congressional Districts 3 through 8 keep their seats. And in CD9, former Phoenix Mayor Greg Stanton is the projected winner for the seat opened by Kyrsten Sinema's Senate run.
Cronkite News had reporters at Republican and Democratic headquarters here in Arizona last night. We talked to some of the projected winners about what comes next.
To the people of Arizona, I am humbled by the confidence you have put in me. It is my honor to continue working on your behalf, and I am truly energized by the work that lies ahead.
I want to be a leader on infrastructure investment because Washington hasn't done enough on that. I want to be a leader on comprehensive immigration reform. And we need to be leaders on the issue of climate change because the president has taken us away from that. So I'm going to work in a bipartisan way, a results-focused leader. That's what I did as mayor. People can trust me. That was our message. And obviously it resonated very well with the voters tonight.
Amid record-breaking voter turnout, there were reports of long lines and broken machines, but most would agree that we saw improvement at the polls from the August primaries. Sammy Giebers spoke to Maricopa County Recorder Adrian Fontes on how the day went.
I also spoke to a voting rights advocate who said that the state needs to invest more in these elections. Adrian Fontes said that it's all about allocating the budget to make the process more efficient. Lines and broken machines.
I don't know what the problem is. Nothing's being explained, so just kind of waiting.
Problems at the polls cause frustration for those wanting to cast in their ballot Tuesday. And the Arizona director for All Voting is Local says that frustration can lead to fatigued voters.
And sometimes people leave the polling place. People have to get to work. People can't wait for an hour or 2 hours, and so it's incumbent upon us to create a system where that isn't required.
Lines on Tuesday were large, but Gulata believes the budget spent for voting day was not.
Total amount of money that was spent yesterday by the campaigns, by the PACs, by all of the people who spent money on this election, and you look at how much we spent on election administration, it's just a tiny little drop in the bucket.
Maricopa County Recorder Adrian Fontes said the Maricopa County election budget was more than $20 million for midterms.
What I'd like to do is see that go further. I'd like to see that help to improve the voter experience. How much money you have versus how you spend the money you have really is a very important part of the equation as you make the decisions moving forward.
And both Gulata and Fontes agree that Tuesday was a step up from what we saw in the primaries.
Yeah, I'm giving us a grade of A-, which means it went pretty darn well, but there's always room for improvement.
I think we did a better job this time. Not perfect, but I think we did a better job.
But the would-be voters who couldn't wait for fixes say Arizona has a way to go when it comes to the poll. Fontes said that they are currently looking at ways to make sure polling places in the general election in 2020 will see improvements.
President Donald Trump held a news conference today where he discussed last night's midterm election results. During the conference, Trump credited Nancy Pelosi when speaking about the Democrats winning control of the House. He says he hopes for bipartisanship in delivering for the American people. Some issues he wants to continue working on include economic growth, infrastructure, trade, and lowering the cost of prescription drugs.
It was a big day yesterday, an incredible day. And last night, the Republican Party defied history to expand our Senate majority while significantly beating expectations in the House for the midterm and midterm year.
Trump also mentioned outgoing Arizona Senator Jeff Flake, claiming that he himself was the only reason Flake retired from Senate. In an op-ed in the Washington Post today, Flake called for the Republican Party to move past the, quote, cult of Trump's personality.
And just 1 hour after President Donald Trump held a news conference, Attorney General Jeff Sessions resigned from his position. Trump tweeted earlier today that Chief of Staff to Attorney General Matthew G. Whitaker will be the new acting Attorney General of the United States. In a later tweet, he also thanked now former Attorney General Jeff Sessions for his service and said a permanent replacement will be nominated later.
There was a large increase in the amount of voters for this election.
Coming up on Cronkite News, how the Latino voter demographic increased in this year's election.
And how organizations targeted younger generations of voters to promote going out and letting their voices be heard.
I knew what I was accepting when my passage out here was paid. To marry a man I'd never set eyes on before.
I like the look of you. We've waited 12 years for this.
You have been brought here as the property of your husband, and you will behave accordingly.
What if these men have been on their own for so long they're not men anymore?
If we are to be free, we must possess their minds, their souls.
Sunday night at 6 on Arizona PBS.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland.
In Washington.
In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
Latinos in Arizona were crucial voters in this past election, a growing demographic that will shape Arizona politics for years to come.
Cronkite News reporter Alexa Avila spoke with local Latino community leaders and advocates who say, while yesterday was a good start, their mission still has to continue.
The day after midterm elections, those who pushed for a higher young Latino voter turnout say their work isn't done.
We're going to continue to engage young people and underrepresented voters, whether it's on their campus or in their communities, and we are going to meet them where they are.
Initial reports seem to point to a potential record turnout at the ballots yesterday in Arizona. The question is, how many of those who voted fall within the coveted millennial Hispanic vote?
The youth vote is here to stay. And more than ever, we're starting to realize the power that our ballots hold as the largest voting bloc in Arizona and in this country.
Raquel Turan is the new representative-elect for District 30 in Phoenix after winning Tuesday's midterm election. A community organizer and advocate in the past with the organization Mi Familia Vota, Taryn is a part of a group building a political and civic movement over the last decade.
What I always tell people is that we have not seen the numbers that we want to see, but we've always seen steady growth. And what we saw last night is that they're becoming freaking voters.
During his concession speech last night, Democrat David Garcia, who is running for governor, specifically thanked many of the local Hispanic advocacy groups that supported his campaign and who pushed to get younger Hispanics to the polls.
I need to thank Lucha and Planned Parenthood, CWA, CASE, Mi Familia Vota, Chispa, Mi Gente Puente, and one Arizona for all of your work. Thank you very much.
But it wasn't enough to put a Democrat in the governor's office, at least not yet.
Progress doesn't happen overnight, and it's going to take very many more months of organizing, very many more months of educating young people to continue to set the culture of voting.
In Phoenix, Alexa Avila, Cronkite News.
In past years, youth voters have had low voter turnout, but this year it appears the youth stepped it up in the midterm election. Cronkite News reporter John Cardinelli talked with a couple of organizations that are working on promoting voting for current and future generations.
This year at ASU's campus in Tempe, the student line to vote seemed larger than usual.
It's very important given the fact that we live in a society where most of the people that vote are older, and it's important to get everybody's voice.
A voice that seemed to be absent in past elections was the youth voice, but this year there was a change.
We saw a drastic increase of young people being paying attention, being engaged, being interested, getting actually registered to vote, and then we've seen in early vote it was a 200% increase. So we doubled the number of young people in the early vote period here in Arizona.
Next Gen promotes voting to already eligible youth. This year, they helped register over 21,000 young voters.
We saw candidates running this year that looked like us, that came from our communities, and we were really inspired to vote for them and for that vision of the world we could have.
While youth vote was up, turnout was still lower than other age groups.
Reasons that a lot of young people don't vote is because they feel like they don't have enough information, they're not sure how the process works.
Kids Voting Arizona is doing just that. They are informing students who can't yet vote on the voting process.
You have to start them early, like with anything. You have to get them started on their education early and the practice of voting, and not only voting, but informed voting.
Kids Voting Arizona goes to schools in Maricopa County and puts on a mock election, so students can feel like they are a part of the voting process.
When we were having the 3rd, 4th, 5th, especially the middle school students and the high school students, they were really focused on making sure that they read what the candidate was about and then making their decision.
Getting the next generation informed is important, especially because young voters are such a big demographic.
If we all turned out to vote, we would be the decisive factor in elections up and down the ticket, and we already have seen that in some of the results we got back yesterday.
In Phoenix, John Cardinelli, Cronkite News.
Both organizations believe that with the information they provide, the number of young voters will continue to increase. Prop 305 was introduced to expand Arizona's school choice program.
But a grassroots group of parents successfully overturned the efforts.
We sat down with one activist who says Arizona needs to protect public school funding.
And we're going to stick with our trend of clear sunny skies throughout the week, but I'm tracking a cold front that may cool things down just a bit as we head into our holiday weekend ahead. I'll have your details coming up. As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland, in Washington, in Louisville.
From Jerusalem. Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
Millions of people die every year from drinking dirty water. I would never have felt I had the ability to do something without ASU pushing me. We built filtration systems out of local materials with the people. To see those kids drink clean water for the first time, it's the most rewarding feeling that you can ever have. I went to ASU because I wanted to change the world. The thing I never would have expected is how the world would have changed me.
Educators worked for the past year to prevent Senate Bill 1431 from becoming law. And last night, the proposition to do that was defeated 2-1. Reporter Gabriela Becerra tells us about what's next in education funding for the state.
The fact of what a huge defeat it was just speaks to the fact that this is not a partisan issue. This is not a school choice issue. This is just, it was a bad law.
Prop 305 was an expansion of the Empowerment Scholarship Program, which would have changed the way education is funded. Dawn Penich-Thacker, spokesperson for Save Our Schools Arizona, says all types of voters saw that it wouldn't have helped the public school system.
Voters saw that, and they saw that regardless of party. They saw that regardless of whether they have kids at home or not.
Penich-Thacker says their fight to fund Arizona's public schools is not over.
We hope that this sends a message to our newly elected and our re-elected state leaders that we want to prioritize public education funding. We want to prioritize the choice that 95% of families are making, and this shows that voters in general want that to happen.
In Phoenix, Gabriela Becerra, Cronkite News.
Save Our Schools Arizona says the nearly 2-year effort to defeat this proposition was successful thanks to the thousands of volunteers that helped educate voters on education funding.
Last night, Arizona voters struck down a ballot initiative that would have required the state's regulated utilities to get 50% of their renewable energy by 2030. But don't be surprised if something like this effort comes up again in the future. Prop 127 was one of the most expensive ballot initiatives in Arizona's history. More than $54 million were spent to fight for or against it. Stan Reynolds from the University of Arizona focuses in part on energy economics. He says groups outside of Arizona are starting to push for more renewable energy since the federal government won't.
I think they felt like it was worth investing significant resources at the state level in a place like Arizona to try to get a win.
The fight over Prop 127 got personal at last night's Republican Watch Party in Scottsdale. A Tom Steyer dunk tank was set up. He's the California billionaire who spent millions pushing for the proposition.
I got a message for Tom Steyer that the California billionaire that spent all that money, I'll tell you what, when you mess with the Burno, you're going to get the burn, but you're never going to get my O.
Even though this measure failed, Reynolds says more ballot initiatives focused on renewable energy will likely pop up again.
This kind of thing will be gaining more traction over time, so I would expect this kind of thing to come up again, and something akin to this may be passing in the next few years in Arizona and some other states.
29 other states have renewable energy standards in place already. California and Hawaii aim to have 100% renewable energy by 2045. Arizona's current plan to have 15% of renewable energy by 2025 will remain in place.
This week of midterm elections has brought us clear skies and cooler temperatures.
Haley, is this trend going to stick around, or what's changing?
That's right, guys. This past week, we've seen beautiful conditions all across the entire state. And going into this next week, we're going to keep that trend of clear, dry, sunny conditions all throughout the valley. And it's beginning to start to feel a little bit cooler, especially in our mornings, but it actually is unseasonably warm for this time of year. Typically, we hang out a couple degrees lower than our highs so far this year, but I am tracking a cold front that's going to cool things down just a little bit as we head into our weekend. But taking a look at the evening planner tonight, in about an hour, we're going to hit that 79-degree mark before dropping down into those upper 60s by about 10 o'clock tonight. And we're going to get even cooler going into tomorrow night. Take a look at these lows across the valley. 54 in Scottsdale, 50 up in Cave Creek, 49 over in the West Valley out in Whitman. And high temperatures across the state tomorrow. We're going to hit about 82 degrees. Low temperatures across the state, 57 here in Phoenix. Take a look at these lows up in the high country. 19 degrees in Flagstaff, 15 up in the Grand Canyon, 53 down in Yuma. But highs tomorrow, we are going to stay one more day in our above average temperatures before dropping into that cold front. And then for our 7-day forecast, that cold front's going to begin to hit on Thursday before cooling us down just a little bit and then dropping down. Our lowest day of the week is going to be 71 on Tuesday. These lows going to hang out in the upper 40s. In the Cronkite Weather Center, I'm Haley Brand.
Thanks, Haley. Some people use artistic expression to clear their minds, to reduce stress, or just for fun.
But for others, it means much more. Next on Cronkite News, how painting serves as therapy for a certain community.
If you're looking for one show that tells you what happened that day in the world of business, it's NBR.
We saw a classic shipwreck.
Nordstrom's opening stores.
Triple-digit gains.
Crude climbs.
We're there to help our audience find new investment ideas.
The market still has room to go up.
Nightly Business Report is the longest-running business television program in history.
Weeknights at 10:30 on Arizona PBS.
I'm Matt Berry, ESPN Sports Center anchor and graduate of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. With its bachelor's and master's degrees in sports journalism, the Cronkite School is preparing the next generation of sports journalists to tell stories that matter, stories that excite, inspire, and inform. Cronkite immerses students in covering sports at all levels in one of the country's top sports markets. It's this hands-on experience under the guidance of award-winning sports media veterans that shape the top journalists of tomorrow.
By the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Before Professor Halden, I had an insane amount of passion, but I almost felt helpless because I didn't know how to use it. Professor Halden gave me a chance to make a difference. Being at a place like ASU allows you to take these big leaps. Ultimately, the biggest problems in the world cannot be solved alone.
Surrounding yourself with others going through the same hardships as you are can really lift you up. Sammy Giebers visited a weekly Phoenix art class that brings together a group of people dealing with the same conditions.
Hey, Betty.
What's on your mind today?
We have primary colors that you know very well about.
For Dora Hernandez.
So let's start with the yellow and we'll add some red.
It's getting paintbrushes in the hands of her students.
So funny to call them students because they're usually much older than I am. I've learned a lot from you, Anna Banana.
But she's not always the teacher.
What I've learned from Betty is you focus on something and you do it and do it and do it.
I just enjoy doing it.
From Rolly, I've learned attitude. Bill is really consistent. It's Vicky, very joyful, very good.
Focus for the class with art in mind isn't the painting, but the camaraderie.
You still love me?
And sometimes the focus,
and of course,
is on recalling a name.
I can't remember.
Betty.
Betty, she's extraordinary.
The class is for those dealing with dementia or brain injuries.
It helps when you share something you have in common with everybody else.
And just across the hall,
oh, there they go again,
is another type of support.
Laughing next door like they're having more fun than we are.
With coffee and donuts, the artist's loved ones share their own stories.
I think like it for the same reason they do. We're all caregivers of somebody who has Alzheimer's, so sharing the same experience because we're in the same boat is a good thing for us.
Always do your own thing.
And they do work on their own paintings, but you can't say they're on their own.
Rolly, he's over the top.
What'd you call me?
Over the top.
Stop your gambling.
And at the end of the class, what's on everyone's mind?
Good night, Irene.
It's whatever Rolly is singing. In Phoenix, Sammy Giebers, Cronkite News.
This class began as a partnership with Banner Alzheimer's Institute. The group meets weekly at the Phoenix Center for the Arts.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Support for Arizona PBS comes from viewers like you and from...
I'm David Goldstein, owner of Biltmore Loan and Jewelry. We buy or loan on upscale assets. We have over 30 years of experience in determining values of automobiles, jewelry, art, collectibles, and antiques. For more information and appointments, biltmoreloan.com.
Whitfill Nursery, proud to support Arizona PBS, a Valley tradition since 1946. Over 200 acres of Arizona-grown trees, citrus, and palms. Complete custom design and installation. And Whitfill Nursery still does the digging. WhitfillNursery.com.
Think Wednesday on PBS for stories from the world around us.
stories of frisky felines.
They're gymnasts. They can maneuver.
Uncovering the mysteries of war that may be just what they're looking for. And safeguarding cities.
Is a city built for the future ready for climate change?
For stories that get you closer to life. Think Wednesday.
Tonight, starting at 7 on Arizona PBS. Explore new ideas and new worlds here on Arizona PBS, a community service of Arizona State University.
Arizona PBS deeply appreciates every gift we receive, and we are proud to honor our Executive Society. These supporters believe in the mission of public television and are making a real impact in our community. If you would like to join the Executive Society, please call the number below or log on to azpbs.org to join. Thank you.
Coming up next on Arizona PBS, Life and World.
For the past 8 months, we've been delighted to bring my show Amanpour to PBS. Now, I am thrilled with our new show Amanpour & Company. I'm really looking forward to working with our incredibly talented contributors. Join us for Amanpour & Company.
Weeknights at midnight on Arizona PBS. Support for Arizona PBS comes from viewers like you and from
Don't let the flu sneak up on you. NextCare Urgent Care has 43 locations in Arizona and offers online check-in. Most insurance plans accepted and no appointment is needed. Information at nextcare.com or 855-279-2503.
At Arizona Oncology, we know each cancer is unique, and so is every patient we treat. Our team is dedicated to providing advanced care, innovative technology, and personalized treatment options to patients right here in our community. The implant and denture experts, with their digital technology, strive to give you a confident and natural smile with comfortable fitting dentures or dentures on implants. Information and appointments at theimplantdentureexperts.com.
Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we'll look at results from last night's midterm elections and talk about where the state goes from here. And November is National Adoption Awareness Month. We'll hear from an organization that's helping foster kids find families. That's next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible with the support of Arizona Highways Magazine, Escape,